SAO is absolutely awful. M. Night Shyamalan's movies are leagues better. Let's dive into some of his films in this video.
A group of vacationing families discover that the secluded beach where they're relaxing is somehow causing them to age rapidly, reducing their entire lives into a single day. In this video, I'll break down the old movie. Let's get started. The movie begins with married couple Guy and Priska Kappa traveling to a tropical resort with their young children Trent and Maddox. This is their final family vacation before Guy and Priska plan to get a divorce. Trent and Maddox meet a young boy named Idlib. His uncle is the resort's manager. Trent and Idlib go around asking people their names and occupations. Later, the resort's manager recommends that the Kappa family visit a private beach on the other side of the island. A van is arranged and the characters are driven to the beach. The Kappa family is joined by three additional parties. First, there's surgeon Charles, his trophy wife Crystal, their young daughter Kara, dog Gustav, and Charles's mother Agnes. Second, there's husband and wife Jaron and Patricia Carmichael. Third, there's rapper Midsize Sedan and his unnamed female companion. They've been at the beach since the morning. The characters relax on the beach and the kids play together, but they soon discover the drowned body of Midsize Sedan's female companion. She shouldn't have swam alone. Visibility is low in the early morning, and predatory animals in the ocean move closer to the shore at night. Furthermore, there was no lifeguard on duty. Midsize Sedan said he didn't do anything and he doesn't know what happened to the girl. Midsize Sedan shouldn't have said anything at all. The other characters don't know that this girl was with him, so he could just deny everything. The characters attempt to call the police, but there's no reception on the beach, so they're out of luck. Jaron walks back through the rocks, but it causes him to black out and stumble back to the beach. Agnes also suddenly dies. Charles thinks that the shock of finding the dead body killed Agnes. Furthermore, Trent, Maddox, and Kara have rapidly aged and are now teenagers. There is clearly something wrong with this beach. Midsize Sedan and Charles try to leave through the rocks, but they also black out and end up back on the beach. It's explained there's an intense cranial pressure when trying to leave the beach, like you're deep underwater. But if the pressure is so intense, then the characters should have also felt something when first entering the beach. They might be able to turn around and walk back the way they came. The characters split up and look for another way out, but are unable to escape the beach since they always black out and return back to the shore. Priska thinks that the kids are reacting to something they ate or they caught something. Charles cuts Midsize Sedan in the face with a pocket knife, but the wound heals immediately. Attacking other people isn't a good idea. The characters are all stuck in the same situation, so they should set aside their differences and work together until they can leave the beach. Gustav also unexpectedly dies. The characters can't swim away because the current is too strong. Swimming parallel to the shore should help you survive against the current, so the characters could try that. They can also create a makeshift raft by using the wood from the chairs and a towel for the sail. Midsize Sedan admits that he has a problem with his blood not clotting. Priska has a tumor in her stomach and it starts growing bigger. Priska faints and Charles cuts the tumor out. Priska regains consciousness and feels much better. This goes to show that the adults are also being affected by the beach. It's not just the kids. The good thing is that the wounds heal immediately, so they don't need to sew up the incision. Midsize Sedan discovers that his female companion's dead body has completely decomposed. However, it's later explained that dead cells like hair and nails aren't affected by the beach, so dead bodies shouldn't be affected either since the cells are dead. And if dead bodies are affected by the aging beach, then it should have decomposed much earlier since this woman has been at the beach since the early morning. It normally takes several years for an exposed body to decompose, so the characters finally realize that the beach is rapidly aging them. Half an hour is equivalent to about 1 year. The kids are hungry and have to eat a lot because their mass is growing so quickly, whereas the adult's mass is staying the same. The reason why the characters black out when they leave is because it's like they're swimming to the surface too fast after being deep in the ocean, and their bodies can't reacclimate. So it's like the bends or decompression sickness. Jaron suggests suggests walking very slowly through the rocks by taking a step and standing still. It'll take about 8 to 10 hours in total so their bodies can acclimate, but nobody does that because it will cost them 20 years of their life. They should at least try Jaren's plan to see if it works or not. Losing 20 years of your life is a lot better than losing all of it, and the characters don't really have any other options at the moment. Trent gets Kara pregnant and she gives birth, but the baby dies right away because it couldn't survive the beach's aging effects. Charles's schizophrenia worsens and he kills Midsize Sedan. Why didn't Midsize Sedan's wounds heal immediately like last time? Guy takes the knife out of Charles's hand. They should have tied Charles up after the first time he attacked Midsize Sedan. He was clearly losing his mind. Jaren tries to swim to another shore since he was on the swim team, but he ends up drowning. Swimming isn't really going to work. The characters already found the drowned body of Midsize Sedan's female companion earlier, and we were told that she was a strong swimmer like Michael Phelps. Jaren should have tried out his other strategy of walking slowly through the rocks. This seems to be the only feasible method of escaping the aging beach so far, and none of the characters bothered to do it for some reason. They would rather die right now than lose 20 years of their life. It's also revealed that at least one member of each party is sick and has some underlying medical condition or mental disorder. They were chosen by a random sweepstakes that came with their pharmacy receipt, so that's how the resort knows about them. This is why you should never trust random sweepstakes. It's important to do some research before traveling to an unknown location so you know what to expect. This resort probably gets bad reviews since people are constantly disappearing. Priska admits that she was going to leave Guy for someone else. Trent and Kara bury the baby's remains. Kara tries to climb the rocks, but she blacks out and ends up falling to her death. Kara should have tried going much slower so her body could reacclimate and also rested on the ledge when she got tired. Additionally, the other characters standing on the ground could have made a safety net out of the blankets or towels to catch Kara if she fell. Moreover, moving to higher ground can help improve your cell phone reception, so Kara could take one of the characters' phones and climb the rocks a bit to see if she was getting a signal higher up. If there was a signal, Kara could call for help. Patricia plans to use some pool noodles to swim out, but if she had those, then she should have given them to Jaren earlier. Patricia dies from her epilepsy, so one of the other characters can take the pool noodles and swim out. These pool noodles are literally never mentioned again in the movie, though someone else could have used them. Guy goes blind and Priska becomes deaf. Trent and Maddox find a notebook of a previous traveler who wanted to be a science fiction writer, which is a nice reference to the French graphic novel that this movie is based on. One of the characters in the graphic novel was a science fiction writer. The notebook mentions how the magnetism of this exact spot on Earth with the rocks on this beach submerged beneath the ocean for millions of years, deposited with special minerals, are causing their cells to age at a rapid rate. Trent thinks that making a metal tube can prevent the aging beach's effects, like how wearing a metal vest before an X-ray will protect you. However, there's no metal on the beach, but the food that the characters were given comes in foil packages. Maybe they can use it to create a suit of tinfoil armor. That might be enough to shield them from the beach's effects, since tinfoil is strong enough to block radio waves. Writing a notebook is also a great way to warn future victims of the beach. The victim who visited this beach in the past probably already tried doing the same things the characters did to escape, so they should have written that it doesn't work. That way the characters won't need to waste their time and energy trying. Charles takes his knife back and attacks Guy at night. Someone should have kept an eye on Charles to make sure he wouldn't retrieve the knife. Priska slashes Charles with a rusty knife and it causes a fatal infection, since the rust acts like poison when it gets into your bloodstream. But if this is the case, then Priska should have also died from an infection during the tumor removal, since the other characters stuck their dirty 3 hands inside her body. Crystal dies in a cave from her calcium deficiency. Guy and Priska also die of old age moments apart from each other. They can't even remember why they're here or why they were fighting. Only Trent and Maddox, who are now fully grown adults, survive the night. Trent and Maddox only have about 13 hours left until they also die of old age. Trent and Maddox continue to search for a way out of the beach, but they decide to build a sandcastle first. This is another cool reference to the French graphic novel that this movie is based on, but the characters don't really have the time for this. They need to focus on escaping while they still can. Trent decodes a secret message given to him by Idlib, and he discovers an underwater coral passage. It would have been a lot better if Idlib just told Trent not to go to the beach from the start. If Idlib was able to slip Trent this secret message, then he could have warned Trent in advance. Trent and Maddox believe that the underwater coral passage is the way out, since the coral will protect them against the beach's rapid aging effects. They definitely should have thought of the coral much earlier. Guy even noticed the coral and made a comment about it when they first came to the beach. The coral isn't even that far from the shore. Trent and Maddox swim through the underwater coral passage, but Maddox's shirt gets caught on the coral. She should have taken it off before swimming. It's just common sense to not swim with baggy clothing. Maddox can still take the shirt off now. There's no need to waste so much energy trying to pull it off the coral. Trent and Maddox don't emerge from the water, so a resort employee reports that the entire group is dead. The resort employee should have waited a bit more to make sure. He only watched Trent and Maddox for a minute and a half, but people can hold their breaths for a lot longer. The current world record is almost 25 minutes. It's then revealed that the resort is a front for a pharmaceutical company research team. They're conducting clinical trials of new medical drugs. The cocktails that the adults were given when they first arrived at the resort contain the medicine. The researchers are able to complete the drug trials within a day instead of a lifetime, since the beach rapidly ages people. They think that sacrificing a few people is worth it to save millions of people with the new medicine that they develop. This is the 73rd trial though, so it's strange how the researchers haven't been exposed yet, especially since they kidnap famous people like Midsize Sedan. If Maddox was able to recognize Midsize Sedan, then it's safe to assume that he's pretty well known. The people coming to this resort probably tell their family and friends where they're going, so it would be really suspicious when hundreds of people are suddenly disappearing after going to the same resort. Priska was also texting her new boyfriend before arriving at the resort, so he would have noticed something was wrong when Priska didn't respond. The researchers attempt to lure a new group of people to the beach, but Trent and Maddox come to interrupt them. It turns out that they both survived the underwater swim. Trent and Maddox bring police to the resort and the researchers are arrested. The notebook that Trent and Maddox found on the beach is used as evidence since it contains the names and addresses of other victims. Finally, the movie ends with Trent and Maddox heading to the airport. They'll be living with their aunt, and they're unsure about their future. In the original French graphic novel, the characters actually never escape the beach and eventually die. Moreover, the aging effect is not explained at all, so compared to that, the movie's ending is not as sad and depressing. What did you think of Old? Let me know your opinion. I personally thought it was decent. It's definitely one of M. Night Shyamalan's better movies. Which movie should I do next? Leave a suggestion.
Split is a 2016 American psychological horror thriller movie. It's written, directed, and produced by M. Night Shyamalan. Additionally, the movie is the second installment in the East Rail 177 trilogy. In this video, let's take a look at some Split Easter eggs and trivia. Haley Lou Richardson, who plays Claire, and Jessica Sula, who plays Marcia, had previously worked together on the 2016 TV series Recovery Road. This is the second time that M. Night Shyamalan and Jason Blum have worked together. They also collaborated on the 2015 movie The Visit. The flower in the bathroom here is a Protea pincushion. It's named after the Greek god Proteus. In Greek mythology, Proteus had the ability to change his shape and form at will. That's quite fitting considering the subject of this movie. Buck fever is something real. It's the nervousness felt by novice hunters when they first sight game. Yuki Washington plays the TV news anchor here. He's the actual news anchor for KYW, which is the CBS affiliate station in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. The King of Prussia Mall is a real mall located in Pennsylvania. It's actually the largest shopping mall in the United States. In terms of gross leasable area, area. Dr. Karen Fletcher is most likely referring to Dr. Ellie Staple here, who will make her debut in the movie Glass. This is a reference to the 1958 movie Vertigo. In that movie, there's also a character that goes to an art gallery to look at a painting that references the themes of the plot. Jay is played by M. Night Shyamalan here. He usually makes a cameo appearance in his movies. M. Night Shyamalan also plays Jay in the sequel to this movie, Glass. The Kanye West reference here is very fitting. Kanye West actually references the movie Unbreakable in his song Through the Wire. Specifically in the line Unbreakable, what, you thought they called me Mr. Glass? In one interview, Anya Taylor-Joy says that Hedwig's dance tells the story of him going to the club, getting challenged to a dance battle, and then being attacked and bitten by a zombie. Afterwards, Hedwig turns into a zombie himself. We later see the man with orange headphones as Casey leaves the zoo. This scene is very similar to the kitchen gun scene from Unbreakable. This is yet another hint that the two movies are connected. The T of the taxi's logo here is very similar to the Teen Titans logo. The QuickTime file in the bottom right here is named Mr. Pritchard. The name Pritchard is a reference to the character Lionel Pritchard from the 2002 movie Signs, which was also written and directed by M. Night Shyamalan. The last thing that Kevin remembers is being on a bus on September 18, 2014. This is actually the day which Scotland held a vote to decide if they're going to split from the UK. James McAvoy, the actor who plays Kevin, is from Scotland. There's a total of 23 toothbrushes here, one for each of Kevin's different personalities, before the Beast was introduced. Furthermore, in one tweet, M. Night Shyamalan stated that this had to be reshot many times, until the shadows started to look like people. It didn't feel right. In the final scene with Kevin, the music that's playing here is from the beginning of the theme Visions from Unbreakable. Mr. Glass are the last words spoken in this movie and in Unbreakable. Additionally, M. Night Shyamalan actually had to get permission from Disney in order to use the character of David Dunn here, since this movie and Unbreakable were produced by entirely different movie studios. Furthermore, in order to prevent any leaks, the final scene of the movie here was not included in the script. Additionally, it was omitted from all the test screenings. James McAvoy was told that the character of Kevin had originally been created for Unbreakable. However, he was still unaware that the two movies were connected. There's 24 different closing credits. This represents Kevin's 24 different personalities. This movie was inspired by the real-life multiple personality Billy Milligan. He was the first person diagnosed with multiple personality disorder to use an insanity defense by reason of that disorder. Joaquin Phoenix was originally supposed to play the lead role. However, he and the production team couldn't reach a contract agreement. Therefore, James McAvoy was cast in the lead role instead. M. Night Shyamalan has stated that shooting this movie was the most challenging of his entire career. While filming on location in Philadelphia, James McAvoy broke his knuckle. He continued to film for 3 days before letting anyone know that he was injured. As a result of this, James McAvoy also had to work with the same injury during the filming of Atomic Blonde. This movie only had a budget of $9 million. That's about 88% smaller than the budget of its predecessor Unbreakable, which had a $75 million budget. This movie takes place in Philadelphia. That's where M. Night Shyamalan grew up, and most of his movies take place there. M. Night Shyamalan originally intended for the character of Kevin to appear in Unbreakable. However, he felt that would make the movie too crowded. Therefore, he decided to use Kevin in a separate movie. Casey Cook's first and last names begin with the same letter. This continues the alliteration theme from Unbreakable. Many comic book characters' names usually start with the same letter. For example, Lois Lane, Bruce Banner, Peter Parker, Reed Richards, Matt Murdock, and Lex Luthor. This is M. Night Shyamalan's 5th movie to make more than $100 million at the US box office. Sterling K. Brown was also in this movie. He played Professor Shaw. However, all of his scenes were cut from the final movie. You can still find those deleted scenes on the DVD in the extra scenes section though. Although the movie's runtime is 117 minutes, the director's cut is actually 3 hours long. M. Night Shyamalan personally financed this movie himself. He did this so that he could have more creative control over the movie. Additionally, M. Night Shyamalan wasn't able to get the money from the movie studios. Furthermore, M. Night Shyamalan also personally financed The Visit and Glass. The character Kevin Wendell Crumb is named after cartoonist Robert Crumb. Glass is a 2019 American superhero thriller movie. It's written, directed, and produced by M. Night Shyamalan. Additionally, the movie is the third and final installment in the East Rail 177 trilogy. In this video, let's take a look at some Glass Easter eggs and trivia. There's a specific reason why M. Night Shyamalan chose the signature colors for the different characters. Green is David Dunn's signature color because psychologically it's associated with life-giving properties. David Dunn is a protector of life. Yellow is the Beast's signature color because it's associated with religious ceremonies. The Beast is a preacher who wants to help save the broken. Finally, purple is Mr. Glass's signature color because it's associated with royalty. Mr. Glass sees himself as very important. James McAvoy based one of his personalities on actress Saoirse Ronan. They both worked together on the 2007 movie Atonement. Bruce Willis and Sarah Paulson both signed on to be a part of this movie before they even got the chance to read the script. At the beginning of the movie, there's two kids making a video where they go around attacking strangers. One of the kids calls his move the Superman Punch. This is obviously a reference to Superman. There's actually several Superman references in this movie. Joseph and David are talking about Salt Bae. This is a reference to the Turkish butcher, chef, and restaurateur who owns a chain of steakhouses. friends, called Nooser Et. Hedwig says that he enjoys listening to Drake. Drake is a Canadian rapper, singer, songwriter, record producer, actor, and entrepreneur. Later in the movie, Hedwig also says that he used to listen to Nicki, but then Nicki and Drake broke up so he doesn't listen to her anymore. This is a reference to Nicki Minaj, an American rapper, singer, songwriter, actress, and model. At David Dunn's security shop, M. Night Shyamalan once again makes a cameo appearance as Jay, the same character he played in Split. Furthermore, Jay says to David, "Do I know you?" This is a reference to Unbreakable, where M. Night Shyamalan played a drug dealer at the football stadium, where David Dunn used to work. The hospital where the movie was filmed in is an actual former mental hospital, located in Allentown, Pennsylvania. We see 23 different toothbrushes in Kevin's room. This is a callback to Split. Kevin also had 23 different toothbrushes in his room, one for each of his different personalities. M. Night Shyamalan actually added some unseen footage from Unbreakable into this movie, specifically for the scenes depicting David Dunn and Joseph Dunn's memories. When Casey is at the comic book store, one of the employees talks about Action Comics #1, which came out in 1938. This is the comic that introduced Superman. Hello Kitty is a fictional cartoon character produced by the Japanese company Sanrio. On the magazine cover, we can see a picture of Osaka Tower. There's also a caption that reads, "A True Marvel." This text is in the same font as the Marvel Studios font. Casey mentions that Superman couldn't fly at first, and that Metropolis is New York City. This is once again true. Superman's ability to fly didn't appear in the comics until 1941. Furthermore, Metropolis is indeed based on New York City, perhaps the biggest twist in the movie. We find out that Kevin's dad, Clarence W. Crumb, was also on East Rail 177, the exact same train that David Dunn was on. When Dr. Ellie Staple goes to visit a comic book shop, we see the 1966 Batman TV show playing in the background. Yuki Washington plays the TV news anchor at the end. He's the actual news anchor for KYW, which is the CBS affiliate station in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. During the comic scene, we see a bunch of real comic book issues, such as X-Men, Spider-Man, Hulk, and The Flash in the Heroes section. We can see Kevin's gunshot wounds when Casey shot him in Split. This movie does a great job keeping up the continuity between the previous movies. The movie was first announced on April 16, 2017. Shortly after Split was released, the movie had a 39-day shoot, and the script was 134 pages long. This is the 5th time that Bruce Willis and Samuel L. Jackson have worked together on a movie. The others are Loaded Weapon 1, Pulp Fiction, Die Hard with a Vengeance, and Unbreakable. This is M. Night Shyamalan's 13th movie. Bruce Willis and Sarah Paulson have both appeared in the Ocean's movie franchise. Sarah Paulson was in Ocean's 8, and Bruce Willis was in Ocean's 12. According to M. Night Shyamalan, this is the first truly grounded comic book movie. M. Night Shyamalan drew inspiration for this movie from the following comic books: Saga, Forbidden Brides of the Faceless Slaves, In the Secret House of the Night of Dread Desire, Sandcastle, Paper Girls, Day Tripper, and Last Look. This is the second M. Night Shyamalan movie that was released in IMAX. The first was After Earth, which came out in 2013. This is the 3rd time that James McAvoy had to shave his head for a movie. The first time was for X-Men Apocalypse, and the second time was for Split. This is the first M. Night Shyamalan movie that is a co-production between 2 major movie studios, Universal Pictures and Touchstone Pictures, which is part of Walt Disney Studios Motion Pictures. Samuel L. Jackson, who plays Elijah, is actually 5 years older than Charlene Woodard, who plays his mother. The comic book theme of this movie was first introduced in Unbreakable. Alliteration is frequently used in the names of comic book characters. For example, Peter Parker and Bruce Banner. This movie also follows the alliteration theme, with the names David Dunn and Kevin Crumb. Samuel L. Jackson has complimented James McAvoy's performance in this movie. He said, "As good as I like to think I am or what I do and how I do it, watching somebody transform characters in front of your eyes and have an argument with 4 different people is pretty amazing."
As you can see, M. Night Shyamalan's movies are awesome because they are filled with clever twists. Films like The Sixth Sense, Unbreakable, and Signs pull you in with their mysterious and suspenseful plots. Shyamalan knows how to create an atmosphere that keeps you on the edge of your seat, making every scene count. His ability to surprise viewers with unexpected turns is unparalleled, leaving a lasting impression long after the credits roll. Shyamalan's characters are another strong point. They feel real and relatable, which makes their journeys compelling. This connection makes you care about what happens to them, investing you deeply in the story. Shyamalan also excels at blending supernatural elements with human drama. On the other hand, Sword Art Online is a mess from start to finish. The story is a jumble of cliches and uninspired plotlines that feel like they were thrown together without much thought. Pacing is erratic, jumping from one event to another without giving enough time to develop any meaningful depth. The show's attempts at drama often fall flat, coming across as forced and unconvincing. Characters in SAO are bland and one-dimensional. Kirito, the main protagonist, is a textbook example of an overpowered and uninteresting hero. His lack of growth and the way he breezes through challenges without any real struggle make it hard to root for him. The relationships in SAO are equally shallow, with interactions that feel more like fan service than genuine connections. The supporting characters are often reduced to cliches and stereotypes, adding adding little to the overall story. The action scenes in SAO lack real excitement. They often rely on repetitive and predictable sequences that quickly become tiresome. The stakes never feel truly high, because the characters are rarely in genuine danger. This, combined with poor writing and dialogue, makes the action feel empty and unengaging. Overall, SAO is a disappointing series that fails to deliver on its potential. Its weak story, uninteresting characters, and lackluster action make it a chore to watch. In contrast, M. Night Shyamalan's movies are a masterclass in storytelling, offering rich, suspenseful experiences that stay with you long after you finish watching. Even his worst movies are better than the best SAO has to offer.
Greetings, Internet. Today we're going to talk about a film that is so bad it could make the Fire Nation want to take over the world again. That's right, I'm referring to The Last Airbender, a film that proves that sometimes Hollywood just doesn't understand what makes a great TV show. Now, I know what you're thinking. It can't be that bad, can it? Oh, believe me, it can. In fact, it's not just bad. It's so bad that it makes you wonder if it was a prank by M. Night Shyamalan himself. So let's dive in and find out why The Last Airbender is the worst film ever made. Let's start with the characters, or should I say the cardboard cutouts that were supposed to be characters. The characters lacked depth and development. They were about as interesting as a blank sheet of paper. I've seen more personality in a potato. Have you ever seen a group of people with less personality? It's like they were all carved out of wood and then painted with the most bland colors imaginable. And don't even get me started on the acting. It was like watching a high school play, but worse. The actors in this film are about as emotive as a rock. And not even a cool rock like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, but a plain old boring rock that just sits there. The dialogue is delivered so stiffly, it's like they were reading directly from a teleprompter without any idea of what they were saying. I don't want to be too hard on kids, but they were so bad in this film that I think they actually made the adults look better by comparison. It's like they picked them up off the street and said, "Hey kid, do you want to be in a film?" without bothering to check if they could act. But let's not forget the cringe-worthy dialogue that these poor actors had to deliver. It's like the writers just grabbed a bunch of random phrases and threw them together without any consideration for coherence or character development. The dialogue is so bad, it makes you want to crawl under a rock and never come out. The cheesy one-liners are about as funny as a flat tire. The writers were trying to be profound, but instead ended up sounding like they were trying to sell you a used car, and the attempts at humor were just painful to watch. I've heard funnier jokes from my grandma's knitting group. Let's move on to the plot, or should I say lack thereof. The film was supposed to be based on the beloved animated TV series, but it was like the writers only watched the first 5 minutes and decided to wing it from there. The story was all over the place, with huge chunks missing and important details left out. This film is an insult to fans everywhere. The filmmakers changed key plot points, characters, and even the pronunciation of the names. It's as if they actively wanted to make the fans mad. The show had a rich world with fully realized characters, but the film flattens everything out, reducing the story to a generic hero's journey with simplistic themes and characters. All of this is compounded by the fact that the film takes itself so seriously. It lacks the humor and levity of the animated series, which help to balance out the heavier themes and moments. The Last Airbender feels like a film made by people who didn't understand what made the show so special in the first place. One of the biggest issues with the film was its rushed pacing. The series had a complex mythology with fleshed out characters and storylines, but the film tried to condense all of that into just 103 minutes. This led to a lack of character development and a feeling of disconnect from the plot. Another problem was the film's handling of the bending, the elemental magic system used by the characters. The bending in the series was fluid and dynamic, with characters using their abilities in creative and inventive ways. However, in the film, the bending felt stiff and limited, with the characters only using basic moves and lacking the flair of the series. Additionally, the film simplified the plot, removing key storylines and characters and changing the motivations of others. The Last Airbender was a poor adaptation of the beloved source material, failing to capture the heart and complexity of the series. It lacked the character development, dynamic bending, and intricate storytelling that made the series so engaging, leaving fans disappointed and frustrated. The filmmakers decided to just throw a bunch of scenes together without any regard for how they fit together. It's like they were trying to make a collage watch. But instead of using different colored pieces of paper, they use snippets of half-baked plot points and poorly executed action sequences. Okay, at least the special effects were good, right? Wrong. The special effects were so bad that I'm pretty sure they were done by a high schooler on their MacBook. The bending looked like they were waving around pool noodles, and the creatures looked like they were made out of Play-Doh. I've seen better special effects on a sci-fi original film. With a budget of $150 million, you'd think they could afford more than a few firecrackers and some third-grade CGI. Now, let's talk about the man behind the disaster, M. Night Shyamalan. I'm not saying he's a bad director, but this film was like he forgot how to direct. It was like he was trying to be Stanley Kubrick, but ended up being Ed Wood. I'm pretty sure my cat could have directed a better film. The directing in this film is like a train wreck. No, actually, it's worse than a train wreck. At least a train wreck has some momentum. This film is just blah. It's like M. Night Shyamalan thought, hey, let's make a film based on a beloved cartoon series, but let's take out all the fun, adventure, and heart, and replace it with bland dialogue and a complete lack of emotion. M. Night Shyamalan is known for directing small horror and thriller films like The Sixth Sense and Split, which are vastly different in tone and style from The Last Airbender. Shyamalan's usual dark and suspenseful atmosphere doesn't translate well to the colorful, action-packed world of The Last Airbender. This mismatch between director and genre is perhaps one of the biggest reasons why the film failed to capture the spirit of the beloved source material. Furthermore, The Last Airbender is a nuanced story that requires a skilled director who is able to balance the action, drama, and humor in a way that feels natural and engaging. Shyamalan's direction in the film is often disjointed and uneven, with awkward pacing and stilted performances from the actors. The lack of chemistry between the characters and their flat delivery of dialogue can be attributed in part to M. Night Shyamalan's lack of experience in directing films of this genre. Another issue with M. Night Shyamalan's direction of The Last Airbender is his tendency to rely on visual effects and spectacle rather than character development and storytelling. The CGI-heavy action scenes and special effects often feel hollow and lacking in emotional impact. This approach is a departure from the source material, which places a strong emphasis on character growth, relationships, and moral lessons. While M. Night Shyamalan is a talented director in his own right, The Last Airbender required a director with a different set of skills and a deeper understanding of the source material. M. Night Shyamalan's lack of experience in directing action and fantasy films, coupled with his preference for spectacle over substance, ultimately resulted in a poor adaptation that didn't capture the heart and soul of the beloved animated series. Thank goodness this cinematic disaster flopped harder than a fish out of water, and the fact that the planned sequels were all canceled is just icing on the cake. Can you imagine the horror of seeing even more beloved characters and storylines completely butchered on the big screen? I shudder at the thought. Let's all take a moment to appreciate the fact that The Last Airbender sequels were canceled, sparing us from any more nightmares. Who needs a faithful and well-crafted adaptation of a beloved franchise when you can have this mess of a film? Honestly, I'm surprised that it didn't flop harder. In conclusion, The Last Airbender is not just a bad film, it's the worst film ever made. It's like they took everything that could have gone wrong and made it worse. It's so bad that it's become a meme. But hey, don't just take my word for it. Go ahead and watch it yourself if you dare. Or just watch the original series and pretend like the movie doesn't exist. Hollywood should just stop adapting source material that they don't understand.
Additionally, here's a review of another bad movie.
What do you get when you take one of the most beloved anime series of all time and turn it into a live-action movie? Dragon Ball Evolution, that's what. I mean, how do you take an awesome anime with amazing fight scenes and turn it into a movie that's as boring as watching paint dry? Well, today we're going to find out. So, without further ado, let's dive into why Dragon Ball Evolution is a complete cinematic disaster. Let's start with the characters. They say that a movie is only as good as its characters, and if that's the case, Dragon Ball Evolution is a steaming pile of Namekian dung. Seriously, these characters are so bad, I wouldn't trust them to guard the Dragon Balls, let alone save the world. The characters in Dragon Ball Evolution are an insult to the original anime. They're bland and look like they were picked out of a bargain bin at a discount Halloween store. The characters in Dragon Ball Evolution are so boring, I'd rather spend my time counting grains of sand on a beach. If you're a fan of the Dragon Ball franchise, then do yourself a favor and pretend this movie never happened. You'll thank me later. Now, let's move on to the story. Or should I say, lack thereof. The movie somehow manages to take a beloved anime with a rich and complex story and turn it into a forgettable mess. It's like they took the Dragon Balls and wished for all the interesting plot points to disappear. The story follows Goku, who's on a quest to collect the 7 Dragon Balls Balls before the villainous Piccolo does. But that's pretty much all there is to it. There's no real character development, no intricate subplots, no clever twists and turns. It's like they took the Cliff Notes version of the original Dragon Ball story and decided to just wing it. And don't even get me started on the pacing. The movie moves at a snail's pace, with each scene feeling like it's dragging on longer than a Monday morning meeting. I mean, come on, Hollywood, can't you at least try to make the story interesting? The pacing in Dragon Ball Evolution is so abysmal that I could take a nap between each scene and not miss a beat. It's like the writer was trying to stretch out a 20-minute short story into an entire feature-length film. By the time you reach the climax, you're just wishing for it to be over. Can't the filmmakers at least try to make the pacing bearable? The action scenes are awful too. They're supposed to be the highlight of the movie, but they're so badly executed that they make watching grass grow seem exciting. This movie has fights so poorly choreographed, you'd think they were rehearsed by a bunch of toddlers. The action scenes are a cringe fest of bad CGI, shaky camera work, and unconvincing stunts. It's like they spent the entire budget on the hair gel for Goku's wig and had nothing left for the actual fighting. You would think that a movie based on a show about epic battles between superpowered warriors would have at least a few decent fight scenes, but nope. Instead, we get some awkwardly choreographed, appallingly edited messes that make you long for the days of the anime's filler episodes. The characters move like they're walking through quicksand, and the punches and kicks lack any impact or believability. Dragon Ball Evolution has some of the worst CGI I've ever seen in a movie. The special effects in this movie look like they were created by a team of 5-year-olds with a budget of $20. The CGI in this movie is about as believable as a unicorn riding a bicycle. It's clunky, it's awkward, and it's just plain embarrassing. It's like they took all the leftover CGI from the 1990s and threw it into this movie. I get it, making a movie about a bunch of superpowered aliens and magical creatures is no easy feat, but come on. This movie came out in 2009, not 1999. We've come a long way since the days of Jar Jar Binks. If you're looking for a movie with impressive fight sequences, then you're better off watching a Kung Fu Panda marathon. This movie is a disgrace to the Dragon Ball franchise and should be avoided at all costs. Furthermore, the story in Dragon Ball Evolution lacks depth, creativity, and anything that makes it worth investing your time in. Do you like your stories to be as deep as a kiddie pool and as creative as a cardboard box? Then Dragon Ball Evolution is the movie for you. The plot of Dragon Ball Evolution is basically a rehash of every other hero's journey story ever told, but with less heart, less soul, and less intelligence. There's no real exploration of the characters or the world they inhabit. The story feels like a rushed checklist of cliches that were thrown together haphazardly, hoping that nobody would notice. In fact, I'm pretty sure that the only research the writer did for this movie was to binge watch old episodes of Power Rangers and steal all of their ideas. If you're looking for a movie with a rich and complex story, then Dragon Ball Evolution is not the movie for you. It's a shallow and uninspired mess that's about as fun as watching Sword Art Online on repeat. If you're looking for something with more substance, then try watching a documentary about the history of wallpaper. Trust me, it's way more interesting than this train wreck. This movie is like a slap in the face to anyone who's ever enjoyed the original source material. It takes everything that made the anime great and throws it out the window. The characters are unrecognizable and the story is butchered beyond recognition. The only thing this movie has in common with the anime is the fact that they both have the word Dragon Ball in the title. It's like if someone made a movie called Harry Potter and the Deadly Gas Station Hot Dog and tried to pass it off as a legitimate adaptation. Dragon Ball Evolution is an insult to everything that made the original great, and a prime example of what happens when Hollywood tries to cash in on a popular franchise without any understanding or respect for it. Dragon Ball Evolution has some of the worst dialogue I've ever heard in a movie. It's so bad, it's almost impressive. It's like the writer took a bunch of Dragon Ball themed refrigerator magnets and threw them at a wall to come up with the script. There are lines in this movie that are so cringeworthy, you'll want to crawl into a hole and never come out. Don't expect to find any meaningful or memorable lines, because this movie has none. The characters spout off cheesy one-liners like they're in a bad 1980s action movie, and the attempts at humor fall flatter than a pancake. Dragon Ball Evolution tries so hard to be funny that it's almost painful to watch. The humor in this movie is about as effective as a wet noodle, and that's being generous. It's like the writer was trying to channel the spirit of the original Dragon Ball anime, but he ended up with something that's about as funny as a root canal. The jokes are predictable, cheesy, and completely devoid of any real wit or cleverness. The movie tries to shoehorn in some humor through awkward dialogue, but it just comes off as desperate and sad. Even the physical humor falls flat, with the characters performing exaggerated, over-the-top movements that look more like bad pantomime than actual comedy. I've seen more laughs at a funeral than I did while watching this movie. If you're looking for a good comedy, then steer clear of Dragon Ball Evolution. It's like watching a train wreck in slow motion, except the train is filled with bad jokes and cringy dialogue. The sequels to Dragon Ball Evolution have been cancelled, and I, for one, couldn't be happier. The first movie was so bad, it made The Room look like Citizen Kane, and the fact that they even considered making sequels to this cinematic dumpster fire is just mind-boggling. It's like they said, hey, you know that thing that nobody liked? Let's make more of it. I can only imagine what kind of hot garbage the sequels would have been. Maybe they would have introduced a new character called Goku's evil twin brother who's also a vampire or something equally ridiculous. But thankfully, we'll never have to find out. The box office failure of the first movie has saved us from having to endure any more of this nonsense. And for that, I am truly grateful. Dragon Ball Evolution was a mistake, and the cancellation of its sequels is the universe's way of saying, sorry, we messed up. Let's just pretend this never happened. Even the writer of Dragon Ball Evolution, Ben Ramsey, knows how terrible that movie was. He's publicly apologized for it, which is kind of like putting a band-aid on a bullet wound. It's nice that he's acknowledging how much of a disaster the movie was, but it doesn't change the fact that we all had to suffer through it. It's like if I went up to someone I punched in the face and said, hey, sorry about that, but you still have a broken nose. The apology isn't going to make the movie any better. Maybe Ben Ramsey should have apologized before the movie came out and saved us all the trouble of wasting our time and money on it. It doesn't change the fact that Dragon Ball Evolution is still one of the worst movies ever made. It's like apologizing for accidentally setting someone's house on fire. You're sorry, but the damage has already been done. So, there you have it. Dragon Ball Evolution is a terrible movie that should be avoided at all costs. The characters are laughable, the story is forgettable, and the fight scenes are a joke. It's a shame that Hollywood couldn't do the anime justice, but hey, at least we still have the original series to enjoy. If you're ever feeling down about your own creative endeavors, just remember that at least you didn't create something as bad as Dragon Ball Evolution. It's time for Hollywood to face the music and stop making live-action anime adaptations. We've seen enough poorly written scripts, terrible casting choices, and CGI that looks like it was made on a shoestring budget. Live-action anime adaptations are like the sushi at a gas station. You might be tempted to try it, but you know deep down that it's going to be a bad time.
Well, that's it for this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to subscribe so you never miss a future upload. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.